TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop. Come on, baby, higher. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week for 3 men in a box, or 2 men in a box this morning. Matt Grissom here live in studio to talk some great matchups last weekend, and of course this weekend, 2 big games that could really dictate some landscape moving forward, especially for the SEC there. And the 2024 debut of Mr. Adam Trigger. Adam will be on following the NCAA Insiders, talking some college hoops, a mid-major, small market specialist. He's going to come in and talk about a couple of futures and some breaking news from Virginia yesterday as the NIL, the transfer portal, took down another one. Tony Bennett waves the white flag and no mas. Jay Wright did it a few years ago. And when I saw Tony Bennett, I was like, shit, I hope I help. He's 55 years old. He's 3 years younger than myself here. But he had enough. But we'll get to that later. Shout out to our proud sponsor and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play or wherever you download the app. It's free. Viva Tequila Seltzer, CT Bets, second to none. The East Coast is cuckoo for coconut. And of course, Terry Smith at Atlanta Steak and Seafood. Jump on over to Facebook. Follow Terry. Tell him JD from ECSI sent you. Head on over to Atlanta Steak and Seafood website. And if you're buying any fish, lobster tails, sea bass, salmon, the list is endless. Promo code Seafood20, get $20 off each box that you purchase through next week. So without further ado, the one and only Mr. Matt Grissom. What's up, Matt?
Hello. No Q again?
No Q. Q is on assignment at the fire station.
See, he doesn't even check with me now. I thought we had the same agent, but I guess not. Now, what's up, man? Great weekend last weekend, and like that Oregon-Ohio State game, that lived up to the expectations. Texas OU did not. Texas rolled that. Alabama playing close, Tennessee playing close, Georgia playing close. I don't know who's good in the SEC at this point. I mean, honestly, you could make a case that Alabama, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Georgia, we'll see this weekend. Like, they're all kind of good, but I'm not completely sold on them. However, I do think Texas could be on upset alert this weekend. I think everybody's riding a little too high on the Longhorns. But we'll get into that.
Well, it's funny. On your show, and all throughout the week, I'm going to go to the Ohio State-Oregon game, Matt, and I says, hey, listen, guys, very simply, if you like Oregon here, you better jump on some Dylan Gabriel here at 15-1 to win the Heisman. Great game. Came down to the last play of the game, of course. Gabriel goes from 15-1 to plus 350. Travis Hunter doesn't play most of the game. The Ashton Genty, the running back from Boise State, still the leader. They play UNLV in 2 weeks. Matt,
Yeah, it's going to be a great game.
I've said to everyone on the show this week, I'm going to ask you because I think you'll have the same opinion. Go back last year. Washington hosting Oregon. Washington wins a thriller. I think you and me were in the same boat and felt, well, we'll get you at the Pac-12 championship. Oregon was the better team. And of course, Washington blows them out in the Pac-12 championship. When I left that Oregon-Ohio State game, neutral field in Columbus, Ohio State, I still think pound for pound is the better team.
Yeah, my power rating still made Ohio State a favorite on a neutral, even if they rematch today. But going back to the Heisman race, I really liked your point about taking Gabriel. I had already had him preseason, but a guy that we were talking about on our show that we we're looking at, Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck, because I still think whoever comes out of this game, you're going to have value going in because you've got to assume one of those guys are going to lead their teams. Now, you could still make a case for Milroe, but I'm looking at who is going to get through the SEC tournament or the SEC championship, and I think it's going to be Beck and Ewers. I still think those are the top two teams in the SEC. So you've got Ewers right now at 22-1 and Carson Beck 16-1. The problem with Ewers is he probably missed too many games, and that's unfortunate. Now, if he goes on fire, if this Texas team goes 13-0 and is the SEC winner, and Quinn Ewers has 300+ yard games from here on out, I still think he could get it. But you may see a lot of back and forth with the Heisman race, just like we did last year. It was like Bo Nix, and then it was Penix, and then it was Bo Nix, and then here comes Jaden Daniels. Nobody really talked about him till about midway through the season. It was like, okay, it's becoming more and more clear that it's a 2-man race or 3-man race. It was Penix, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels. And then what happened? Jaden Daniels just took off from the pack. So I think it's possible to make a case that any of these quarterbacks still, it is a quarterback award. So as good as Ashton Genty has been, I think he deserves to be in New York. I don't know if he wins it.
I was talking to Ron Marmolevsky last night on our closing bell, our NCAA NFL preview and talk. Something happened 2 days ago for a 2-hour span at the Circa, as you know, Mr. Jeffrey Benson. I haven't seen anything like it with a marquee game like this. Georgia, Texas. Line was 3.5, and then within 2 hours, Benson went to 4, 4.5, 5, and it tipped at 5.5 till it went back to 5. And I sent him a DM. I'm like, Jesus, I guess the Texas oil money came in a little earlier than their Thursday night that they usually do. And he says, just your normal sharp play. And talking to Ron and power rankings, Matt, he opened and enlightened my eyes. He says Ron's power rankings had Texas at 5. Okay. So my question is, if they opened it up at 5, the onslaught of Georgia money to start, they wouldn't have got that two-way action here. So opening it up at 3.5 and then the slow drip to 5, 5.5, they got now their two-way action. And it almost reminds me of Benson and the risk room saying, hey, we want the Georgia money. We think Texas is going to win this game and cover the game.
Yeah, I've had conversations with Derek about this, and sometimes as a bookmaker, you have to draw the line in the sand and say this, we don't want two-way action. We think this is the right side. If we lose, tip your cap. I just my power ratings right now have Texas 75, Georgia 72. You add 2.5 for home field. Yeah, they probably cover that number at 5. That's right around where I make it. The problem is Texas strength of schedule. Their most impressive win was Michigan. The next impressive quarterback that they faced was booty with UL Monroe. Like, I don't think that Texas's secondary has been tested by a good quarterback and the type of physicality and athletes that Georgia has. Now, this could blow up in my face, and we could see Georgia down 28-0 at halftime, kind of like the Alabama game. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Georgia, they've had this game circled, especially after Kirby Smart lost to Alabama. You look at Georgia's schedule, they've played in big-time games. They've had to go on the road. You can't really say the same thing for Texas. So I took the +5, 5.5 with Georgia, or 4.5, 5, and it's kind of like a prove it to me for me. Like, I think Texas is definitely the number one team in the country, but you're getting plus money with the Georgia Bulldogs and a pissed off Kirby Smart that's still fighting for the chance to go to the college football playoff. They need this win. I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia shows up and plays their best game to date.
And I agree with you. And it's just, I said this out loud. I'll say it again. I'd take Georgia +5, 5.5 against the Patriots. I mean, I don't care who the hell they're playing, I mean, this is crazy stuff you don't see this year. And you talked about the SEC here. Alabama travels to Tennessee, which we're going to get to. Georgia to Texas. There is a chance that both of these teams on October 19th, Matt, will have 2 losses. And with their schedule, the LSUs, the Ole Misses still coming, the A&Ms and some of these teams here. One of these teams could be 3 loss and at 14 or 15 outside looking in.
Yeah, I agree. I was listening to Brad Powers on with Mitch and Paulie the other day, and he made a really good point. I mean, there probably will be a 9-3 team. You look at the Big 10, you look at the Big 12, like who are you putting in over a 9-3 Alabama team? I mean, who could really beat them? You start looking at it, you look at the schedules, and like everybody seems vulnerable. The only team that I feel like has not been tested all season long is Texas, and they're going to get their biggest test this weekend. But I think at the end of after this weekend, I think everyone has been tested, and you kind of see how, okay, this separates the men from the boys. And even if Texas loses outright, I still think they're one of the top teams in the country and a shoe-in to make the playoff. But this is big boy football. I mean, this is the meat of the season that we've all looked forward to, and we've talked about parity all season long, and you're getting it this weekend.
Well, Alabama, Tennessee, I was at the Super Bowl Radio Row. I interviewed Jalen Hyatt. This is the 2-year anniversary of Joe Milton to Jalen Hyatt, 5-touchdown game, the thriller, 50-47 or whatever it was. Alabama opened up a pick, maybe 1-point favorite, been steamed now to 3. Thoughts on Alabama, Tennessee?
I have nothing officially. I lean Alabama for a lot of the same reasons why I like Georgia. I feel like they're more tested. I don't know if last week was a fluke with Tennessee and Alabama both struggling to beat weaker opponents, but Nico Iamaleava looks broken from what he was in the early season. And I don't know if it's Josh Heupel's play calling or what, but I mean, they honestly should have lost that Florida game. I feel like Florida could have gone for 2 to win it. But you could say the same thing about Kalen DeBoer in Alabama. I mean, at Lenora Sellers, if you get a slightly better performance out of him, South Carolina probably wins that game. And I don't know if it's just they're overlooking or if these teams really just aren't far and away better than what they appear to be on paper. Because if you think back to the Tennessee-Arkansas game, I thought y'all were crazy trying to talk. You and Matt Humans said you like Arkansas when all of our numbers said, no, Tennessee is going to beat us by 3 touchdowns. Well, what happened? That strength of schedule for Tennessee showed its ugly head, and it turned out that Tennessee really hadn't beaten anybody. And I think a lot could be said for these same team, for all of these teams. But that being said, you look at strength of schedule. 66th for Tennessee, 9th for Alabama. Alabama's been there. Kalen DeBoer shows up in big games. We saw it against Georgia. I think Alabama here or pass. I cannot make a case for Tennessee outplaying Alabama this weekend.
Well, I can't, have you on without your Arkansas Razorback temperature report. How's that looking?
Building hype around the weekend. Once again, Taylor Green off the injury list. That bye week did a lot of good for Arkansas. We went from about averaging 8 players to I think we've got 1 or 2 on it now. Sam Pittman's 6-1 in Fayetteville night games. He's 21-9 as a dog, 7-1 after a bye. All signs point to Arkansas take the money line. I think they're going to beat LSU. LSU getting fat and happy now. They've turned their season around since that lowly loss against USC to open up the season, but I'm still not sold on it. Nussmeier is a really good thrower. If we can put pressure on him, I feel like Travis Williams is going to have the defense dialed up to be able to attack him and give him a pass rush that he has not seen before. As long as Taylor Green stays healthy throughout the game, I think Arkansas wins. It's a tough place to go in there and play in Fayetteville. It's going to be loud. It's going to be red out from what I've heard. And like I said, Pittman, he's 6-0 in Fayetteville night games against top 25 opponents. So, and that's straight up. Obviously, beat Tennessee 2 weeks ago. And then we've beaten Texas and Tennessee again. Ole Miss is a ranked opponent. So, for whatever the reason is, the guy just covers games and likes to win outright at night.
You talked about the SEC, and you know what? I think I want to get your feel here because there's not a better story in the SEC, I think, than Vanderbilt. What they have done the last couple of weeks, that was always the doormat. I mean, it's almost physically impossible to get enrolled in that school, never mind, playing football there in the SEC. And what they have done the last couple of weeks, thoughts on Vanderbilt?
Yeah, I was big on them last week. I thought plus 14 was insulting against a bad Kentucky team. I actually took them on the money line plus, I think, 325 as well. But that's behind us now. They've got Ball State. Let's see if Diego Pavia can prevent this letdown spot. I listened to Tim and Matt Humans last night, and they were talking about taking Ball State plus the points. And I don't hate it. I mean, this is like 4 touchdowns now. And you've got to assume that Vanderbilt maybe slips up a little bit or is asleep at the wheel. I don't know if it's going to be against Ball State, but yeah, what they've done this season, I think Diego Pavia is one of the most electric football players. And it's hilarious that he plays at Vanderbilt of all places. But hats off to them. They went out in the portal and they got him. But yeah, I'm really high on Vanderbilt. They've probably bumped up 2 touchdowns in my power ratings just through 8 weeks of the season.
No Quentin Mills on assignment at the Firehouse. Have a great weekend. Behave yourself, Q. I need your thoughts, though, since he's not here on the Gators. That line's been bouncing around here. What's your thoughts on Florida this weekend?
Yeah, I think you've got to ask yourself, how good is this Kentucky team? And I wasn't high on them last week against Vanderbilt. I'm not that high on them this week against Florida. How the tables have turned, though, from being you're getting laying 14 points against Vanderbilt, and now you're basically a pick 'em against Florida. I would make Vanderbilt a favorite over Florida right now. So it's crazy how the line has moved in favor of I guess Florida instead of Kentucky, but it would be Gators or pass for me. I feel like Kentucky they can't move the ball with Brock Vandagriff, and Florida, for whatever reason, they've kind of found a groove here, but they're kind of playing like the Arkansas of old, where they're just doing enough to not get blown out. But I think Florida bounces back, gets this win.
My marquee, well, one of my marquees this weekend. What your numbers say? I think they're begging for Nebraska money. I mean, in what world is Indiana 6.5 point favorites? The Cornhuskers year 2 with Matt Rule. He's usually a wizard in year 3. They've had one hiccup. You got 6-0 versus 5-1. I think by tomorrow after game day, Nebraska will be that public trendy dog, Matt.
Yeah, I completely agree. Is this north of a touchdown yet? Or is it 6.5 still?
6.5.
Okay. My number's 6.5, 7 if you count a little home field advantage bump for Indiana. I'm going to stay away from it. I feel like Indiana probably wins this game by a touchdown. So if you like Nebraska, hold on. Maybe you can get the 7.
Last question before we take a quick second break and get your Viva 6-pack for the weekend. Look ahead line in July and August, Matt. Don't fall off your stool here. Oklahoma State minus 5.5 at BYU. A full 14-point swing. Currently at the Circa. Good morning, Mr. Benson and Mr. Stevens. BYU minus 9.5 with a 52. Oklahoma State this year horrendous. Coming off a bye week. This is it. We're either going to play the second half of the season or they get blown out here and you might as well call in the reserves.
Yeah, I mean, but let's talk about BYU first. 6-0, 6-0 against the spread. I don't know what team has ever gone 12-0 ATS, but I think Army and BYU both are undefeated against the spread. I think that's going to change. You're starting to get a little too much value on the opponent for those teams. I took Oklahoma State. I bought it up to 10.5 because I'm a wuss, but I think that Oklahoma State off the bye, they're going to play BYU a little closer than they probably should. And like you said, a 14-point swing from the early lines. I don't think Oklahoma State's very good. I like BYU. They've got a good quarterback, but I'm sorry. You got to look at the numbers. They're not going 7-0 against the spread. And if they do, like Tennessee or like a Texas, Georgia, I'll tip my hat and say, good job. You're covering numbers. But this has got to stop.
I got burnt a couple times early this year on Virginia Tech. And ever since I've got off of them, they look like, the Beamer Ball, Virginia Tech squad. Pizza and beer money on their team total over, which it was 28.5. They had 28 at halftime. It was just a no-brainer at that point. If I said to you, do you like Oklahoma State tonight plus the 9.5? Or would you rather have their team total over 21.5 plus 110?
I would go. That team total's tough. It's tough to travel to Provo. Let me see. BYU's defensive success rate ranked 28th. 43rd against drop back, 21st against the rush. We know Ollie Gordon has not showed up. If Alan Bowman can move the ball, I think they could put up points. I would take the points. I don't know if they could get to 20, if they could get to 22 points, but I think they could cover the 9.5. I could see this being a 24 to 17, 16 type game. Ugly.
Elijah, let's hit it.
ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Matt, it's about that time for the Viva 6-pack. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Stay
Although I was saying the dogs have been barking on Friday nights. So Oklahoma State, that's a little preview of I didn't get that pick in on the show, but I'll give it to you now. Oklahoma State, I've got it plus 10.5. Arkansas +3, 3.5, 2. I think literally I emailed you 3-2 money line, whatever the line is tomorrow morning. Sam Pittman again 6-1 in Fayetteville night games, ATS and straight up 21-9 as a dog, 7-1 after a bye. All signs point to Arkansas in this one. LSU getting fat and happy coming off that big overtime win against Ole Miss. You got to go on the road now and play a much better defense than what Ole Miss has been. Give me the Hogs. Then I'm going Georgia. You're giving me plus a field goal and some more with Kirby Smart. I've got to believe that we have yet to see Georgia play a complete game all season long. If they can come out and play the second half Alabama game and do that for 4 quarters against Texas, I think Georgia has the potential to win outright. And much to that same belief, I think this game goes over. I've kind of been burnt here. I took the under in Georgia, Alabama. I took the under in Ohio State, Oregon. These big games where you think that there's going to be some nerves and the defenses are going to shine, the offenses have exploded. So I actually think that trend continues here. I think Georgia, Texas over 55.5, 56 is a play. And then Louisville +5. We've seen Miami skate by. They've combined to win the last 2 games by, I believe, 5 points. One last week. They're going to go on the road and face a tough Louisville team, and I wouldn't be surprised if Louisville gets the win outright. I've took them +5 as well as sprinkle a little bit on the money line. And then Auburn +4. One of my buddies, it's a pretty square better. He texted me the other day, and I hate to put him on blast, but he said, explain to me why Missouri -4.5 is not a lock. I was like, well, if it seems too easy, it probably is. And I'm going to go with that theory. I think Auburn coming off the bye, Missouri hasn't looked impressively. Like their Texas A&M game, you could throw that out. They almost lose to Vanderbilt, albeit they won. I think there's a lot of flaws in this Missouri team, and Eli Drinkwitz, he's having a tough time replacing a guy like Schrader to run the ball. Brady Cook, I think, is trying to do too much. Burden, he's kind of been hit or miss all season. I'm thinking Auburn and Hugh Freeze has a little bit of magic left in them. I think they could win this game outright as well. We've seen a lot of upsets already in the SEC, so let's go Tigers, but not the Bayou ones. Notre Dame, Michigan. I did a little money line parlay to get them at even money. That Michigan line, I liked it earlier in the week, but I didn't bet it. I should have bet the -1.5 or 2, whatever it was. Now it's -4. Getting a little too rich to just bet the money line as well. I think it was -180. And then Notre Dame, the spread scares me. I know there's question marks around Haynes King playing or not. I do think Notre Dame gets the win. I think Michigan gets the win, but not comfortable enough laying the points with either one of them. We've seen this Michigan team. They're not very good. The benefit is the Illinois' rush defense is not very good, and Michigan can move the ball. So with Tuttle in there, give me Michigan, give me Notre Dame, both to win outright for an even money line parlay.
Well, I know this weekend won't be as big as last weekend as you took a trip to Jerry's World and just saw an absolute ass whooping by the Lions to Jerry and the Cowboys there. But that's okay because you got a great slate of football this week. And as we always close your segment of this show, Matt, obviously everyone goes on to Twitter at Grissom on X, the best Twitter handle in America, and NCAA Insiders. But tell them where to find your work and your website as well.
Well, it actually does get better than last week because I'm headed to Circa right after this show. So I'll be in Las Vegas till Monday. If you're around Circa, come say hello, watch some college football. I'll be hanging around there. But you can follow us along at www.collegefootballinsiders.com. Check out all of our IPR rankings and Parker's stat previews of all the advanced analytics. Follow me at Grissom on X or NCAA Insiders on X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it.
Matt, always a pleasure. Safe travels to Vegas, tell Mr. Benson, Mr. Stevens, we said hello from the East Coast, okay?
I sure will. And I didn't do the show driving to the airport again. Although
It
I
was
thought
set
about
and
it.
tense. Next week, okay?
All right. We'll see where I can go.
All right, take care. The one and only Mr. Matt Grissom. Go follow him at Grissom on X. Elijah, give us one quick commercial, and we're going to bring in the one and only Mr. Adam Trigger to talk some college hoops, which tips off in less than 2 weeks. We'll be right back.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop, come on, take me higher. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop.
It's been a while since I did a show with Adam. I think we were talking a circuit ticket, or actually a quarter that he was a part of when they took it down. I think it's been over a year. We're blessed and honored to have him here. He will follow the NCAA Insiders throughout the March Madness. If you're not following him, head on over to Twitter at Adam Trigger WT. Without further ado, the one and only Mr. Adam Trigger.
What's up, Jeff? Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
We appreciate having you here. College basketball, less than 2 weeks. I got my Lindy magazine right here. I have to ask you this first question before we dig into the nuts and bolts of this show here. I assume if you don't know, now you know, a UConn guy here. The fact is, my oldest daughter graduated a couple of years ago. My youngest is a sophomore there, season ticket holder, back in the AAC, and now going for something that has not happened since John Wooden, and that's a three-peat. So I'm going to ask you, open and honestly, how realistic do you think it is for UConn to have an opportunity here, and what this year's season brings to them?
I think it's very realistic. I mean, here's the thing, Jeff. Three-peat to win the NCAA tournament 3 straight times requires a great deal of good fortune. Now, I thought like 2 years ago, I loved UConn to win it. I had 30-1, had a huge ticket on them to win the whole thing. It got there. I gave some of that back last year trying to fade UConn at these big numbers because I just didn't think they could run that hot in a tournament setting again. And not only did they run hot, they covered every one of those along the way. This is a special team. We'll have to see if they can stay healthy. But on paper, you know, I believe they're a co-favorite in that market right now to win it all. If all goes well, you're probably not going to see better than 10-1 on them at any point in the year. So if you like UConn, now might be the time to do it, because if they come out hot, that's going to be down closer to 5 or 6-1, in my opinion.
You know, Hurley's, it's almost like the good old days. They don't rebuild, they reload, and it's a system. They got Caravan coming back. They got the guy, Dara, coming back. They got Slam Johnson. But what he also did is he got that power forward from Michigan State. They bring in another transfer from St. Mary's. They got a non-conference schedule. They play in these tournaments, the Texases, the Baylors. They're not afraid to play anyone and to get ready for that gauntlet of a Big East schedule.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I just want to point out how, like, what Dan Hurley has right now in college basketball is not the norm. It's very rare. He's in Storrs, Connecticut, which is all about UConn basketball. He's not competing with anything else there. No one's trying to leave UConn and really go anywhere else unless you fall out of the rotation. So I'll just tie this into the news we hear yesterday with Tony Bennett stepping down at Virginia. This is a quote that Rothstein tweeted out like 20 minutes ago. Tony Bennett: "The game and college athletics are not in a healthy spot. I think I was equipped to do the job the old way." What he's talking about is guys coming in for a year or two and leaving. You know, if you listen to his comments after Colorado State, the loss in the NCAA tournament last year, he wants to coach guys for 3 to 5 years, not 1 to 2 years. And it's sort of destroyed his program. It's why he's stepped down, I think, a few weeks before the season. Now, that I don't know if I agree with the timing of that whole thing, or if there's anything else to that. But the point is, some of these older guys, you saw it with a couple of years ago with Jay Wright. They're not sort of this just wasn't what they signed up for. And I think that's a big reason Hurley is staying in UConn is I think he knows he's kind of got a unique scenario he's probably not going to find anywhere else. He's in the right market for it. No one's trying to leave UConn once they show up. He's going to get these guys like Caravan that come back year after year. You know, the luxury of having a guy like that or guys like that return to the program. He knows he's going to lose guys to the NBA. That was always going to happen. But to have, you know, those types of players returning to your program year after year, just not something we're seeing in college hoops, and gives Hurley just a mega advantage up there in Stores.
And you talked about last year in the tournament trying to beat them, because 2 years ago when they lost in the semis in the Big East, which I was glad because they had a couple extra days to prepare. They go 6-0 and 6-0 against the spread. This past year, their numbers were inflated. They were the number one seed. Come beat us. And they went 6-0 again against the spread. They have covered and won straight up 12 in a row in the tournament, and they have covered 12 in a row in the tournament.
Yeah, it's reminiscent of like the Patriots run when they were so good in the NFL, where it was like the market couldn't adjust enough, right? Like they would hang, you talk about last year NCAA tournament with UConn, throw up a huge number, 12.5 with San Diego State. No problem. They beat it. Go to the title game, set 7 against Purdue, just crushing all of these big numbers. That's kind of what it feels like to me. Somehow you guys in New England get blessed with this, like more than you should in your lifetime, where there's just these dynasty teams that just crush the number.
Friday nights, may he rest in peace, Pop DiBiase. We used to do a show years and years ago in college hoops on Friday. The MAAC, the Ionas, the Manhattan Jaspers, the Ivy League. These markets, no one even wants to bother. Everyone wants to get lathered up for Saturday when there's 150 games. You, my friend, are unique. And this is why we love to have you here. You dig in deep to the smaller markets, the less walked on numbers where we can slip a few by the goalie or the books here, because everyone's worried about Michigan and Iowa instead of Princeton and Harvard. So the stage is yours. You want to talk some Ivy League to start? We got this week and next week before we tip off the following Friday.
Yeah, listen, I'll say this to anyone that will listen. If you're betting college basketball or you want to become proficient in betting college basketball, focus on the non-power fives, maybe the conferences you're in that are in your backyard. That's how I ended up betting MAC and Ivy all these years. I'm from upstate New York. I went to Siena College, so I followed a MAC school from the time I was a little kid because I grew up in the Albany area. But then the Ivy's in my backyard, right? Like now I live in central New York, get out to Cornell games every once in a while. It's just, you can make money in these smaller leagues. The tickets all cash the same, and you can make money in these smaller leagues a little bit better. It's a little bit easier because they're just not being watched as closely as the ACC or the Big 10 or the Big 12, so on and so forth. So I found one where I think the books just fell asleep at the wheel here in the futures market. Princeton to win the Ivy. Listen, Jeff, I know people don't like to tie up money for a long time and bet some of these futures that aren't going to settle till March. But if you have the means to do it, or if you have credit to do it on, and you can get Princeton right now plus 140 to win the Ivy League, that is a fantastic bet. Right now, a lot of the books have Brown second. Okay, if you look at where they're ranking these teams, most have Princeton as a favorite in the plus 140, plus 150 range. Most have Brown second, Yale third, Yale second, Brown third. But Brown just lost Nana Owasu Anane, their big, for the year. He had shoulder surgery. He's probably not playing at all this year. And that comes on the heels of losing Anya to, I think, St. Louis. So their two bigs from last year are now gone. Losing one of them wasn't a big deal because they still have Keno Lilly. He's going to be one of the better players in the Ivy League. So they're still going to have players, but without Owasu Anane in the post, I don't think Brown has any chance to win this league. And I certainly don't think any book in America is going to make them the second choice, knowing he's out for the year. So now why does that make Princeton such a good bet, Jeff? It's because Yale is probably going to take a step back. even though like Yale still has a really good team in the context of the Ivy, they will still be competitive in the context of the Ivy. But you're talking about August Mahoney graduating, Danny Wolf to Michigan, Matt Noling to USC. So Yale lost a 4-year starter in Mahoney. That was like the heart and soul of the team. And then 2 guys to the Big Ten. I just don't think you can win a league, even with, they still got Mbang. They still have players. Their coach is tremendous. Jones has been there for close to 3 decades at this point. They'll be in the mix. But when it comes to competing with a team like Princeton, Caden Pierce, Xavier and Lee, coming back, 2 of the best players in the league, I just think that market is a little bit off. So, and then the other thing I'll add is the bottom half of the Ivy this year, not quite as strong. Cornell loses their coach to William & Mary. So Brian Earl is out. He goes to William & Mary. Cornell's in a little bit of a rebuild. Penn and Harvard aren't like contenders like they've been, go back 3-4 years when they were real contenders. They're just not that this year. So you look at this market, to me, it's Princeton versus Yale, right? Like you can pretty much throw the other 6 teams out, and Princeton is the clear better team. So why am I getting plus 140 on them to essentially be better than Yale? I think the books made a mistake. I don't think the injury news has been priced into the Brown line yet. And so plus 140 on Princeton is an absolute gift. I make it more like minus 150 to win the Ivy.
We started the program talking about Tony Bennett abruptly waving the white flag at the age of 55, and I'm so glad it wasn't health related. In come the AAC, the ACC here. Cooper Flagg, by the way, decided between Duke and UConn. I'm just saying this tongue in cheek, of course, Adam. I don't think he could have handled, a year or 2 with Coach Charlie. So he's living the life at Cameron. But with, Virginia, Tony Bennett, they did something that no one had ever done. Number 1 seed in the overall March Madness. They lose to a 16. The following year, they come back and win the tournament. And since then, Tony and Virginia hadn't won a March Madness game. With the loss of Tony, and I know Duke, UNC's up there, what are you seeing in the ACC?
Yeah, so this is one I really kind of dug into this morning. I didn't really want to – when I looked at the ACC about a week ago, where the odds where they were, it didn't seem much of a reason at the time to try to go against Duke and North Carolina at the top, who I think are the clear 1-2 in this league. I would even go as far as to say Duke is like the clear favorite in this league. I don't think there's any question about that. But a lot of the books had Virginia priced in as a contender, and rightfully so. Tony Bennett, his reputation, he was the best coach in this league. So let's just start there for a second. The ACC just lost the best coach in the league. There's no, in my opinion, there's no dispute on that. It also tells me that maybe this Virginia team wasn't worth sticking around till March for. Like, you know what I'm saying, Jeff? If he was sitting on a great team that he loved, I think he's probably grinding it out till March, maybe taking one more shot in the tournament. So I'm going to take Virginia, throw them right out of the race for that reason. That he's kind of telling us, in my opinion, that Virginia is not really a contender this year. So that got me thinking, okay, who could challenge Duke, UNC at the top? And I think that team could be Louisville. And I want to start by talking about the imbalanced scheduling now that you're going to see in ACC basketball. So we now have a 17-team league. It's going to be a 20-game schedule. The way the ACC is doing their scheduling, you've got 7 unique home opponents, 7 unique road opponents, and then 3 opponents that you're going to play twice, okay? You're going to see drastically different schedules from team to team in the conference. So why is Louisville so appealing? Well, to start off, they don't have to go out west this year. They don't have to go play Cal and Stanford. Cal and Stanford come to them. The other reason Louisville is very appealing is their double games are all very manageable. They get Florida State twice, who's going to be one of the worst teams in the league this year. They get Virginia twice, who I just downgraded significantly based on the Bennett news. And they get Pitt twice. And that Pitt team is very solid. I'm actually going to post a full 20-minute preview I did with my buddy Brian Power on Pitt to my page later today. They're good, but they're not UNC. They're not Duke. They're not Wake Forest, right? They're not those top couple teams. To take it one step further, all of those teams, Louisville, those top teams have to come to Louisville. the Duke game is early December. So the ACC plays this weird early December weekend where they play a conference game. Louisville hosts Duke in that game. They get them out of the way for the whole season. So they play Duke at home December 8th. They're done with Duke for the season. North Carolina and Wake Forest both have to come to Louisville. Louisville's road conference schedule, Jeff, I mean, it's all teams that I have outside of the top 50 right now. So their road conference schedule is NC State. It's, I had it written down right here. Boston College, Georgia Tech, NC State, Notre Dame, SMU, Syracuse, Virginia Tech. All teams that are currently outside of my top 50. Obviously, there's unknown. The roster is entirely new. It is literally all new players. But you know who I think is the best coach now in the ACC? I think it might be Pat Kelsey, who comes over from Charleston. He's a guy I've loved for years. And with Bennett out of the conference, I'd love to know in the comments who you think is a better basketball coach right now than Pat Kelsey. They looked awesome in the Bahamas in a couple exhibitions over the summer. So, hey, like by conference play, if he gets his guys sort of on the same page, that is a very favorable schedule. And you're looking at Louisville like 15-1 to win this league right now. That's definitely worth tying some money up with.
Well, we got Princeton, we got Louisville, we got a couple more seconds or minutes here with you. Let's go to the Atlantic 10. I heard you might have a little something in the Atlantic 10.
Yeah, so this is an interesting league. I actually talk about this team on a Wager Talk show earlier this week. Now, this is one that I haven't really bet yet, but I think it's worth noting a couple things here. So I do lean toward Virginia Commonwealth being the play to win the A10, but I kind of want to wait to see, like, as this starts to pop at numerous books. So the nice thing about these futures markets, Jeff, as you know, in just about any sport, some of the books price these very different, right? Like this is the one market where you truly want to shop around. You're going to see crazy, like big, drastic, different numbers in these futures markets from book to book. And I'm thinking that, so my whole premise here is you have a 15-team Atlantic 10. I don't think there's any like dark horse in the bottom half of this league that can really push the top teams. Like I think you get down to the bottom of the A10, your LaSalle's, your Fordham's, Rhode Island, like St. Bonaventure's down this year. I know people like UMass. I don't think UMass is winning this league this year. Matt Cross goes down to SMU. They kind of the heart and soul of the team from last year. So I'm not really seeing that dark horse in the bottom half of the league. Richmond takes a step back. They were co-champs last year. A lot of people are going to like Loyola Chicago. I don't think they have the offense to win the league. And then the trendy team here is going to be St. Louis, who brings in Josh Schertz from Indiana State. I mean, they're going to be priced right up in the top half. Like you're probably looking at 3 or 4 co-favorites here: VCU, St. Joe's, St. Louis, and Dayton. But like, I get the upside with St. Louis, but I need to see, I want to see them on the floor first. Schertz first year, kind of building a program there. I think the key here is Dayton is still going to get a lot of respect, but I think they take the step back. I just don't think you can quantify how important Deron Holmes was to that Dayton team last year. Without him, I think they take a hit offensively and defensively with what they want to do. And so if you kind of say, okay, you pulled Dayton out of that sort of top 4 choices who are all priced relatively the same, I'm going to pull St. Louis out because I don't think Schertz wins the league in his first year. It kind of comes down to VCU and St. Joe's. And I say, okay, we've got VCU, a team that has roughly the same guys back from a 500 team last year, lose their big guy. Esendoko's now at Providence. But then you've got VCU, Ryan Odom, tremendous coach. Shugla comes back. There was rumors he was going to go to Villanova. He didn't. He stays now, and he's going to be at VCU again. I think all 5 of their starters are upperclassmen. 4 of them were with the team last year. The only guy that really comes in that's probably going to start is Clark from Clemson. He's another graduate transfer. So a lot of veteran guys on a team that was really close to being in the mix for the league last year. I believe finished 11-7 in the league. If you see this team 5-1 or better to win the A10, that's a really good bet, because I'm telling you right now, as the books start to put this number up, you're going to see Dayton take money. You're going to see St. Louis take money, and you'll probably see St. Joe's take money because they have really dynamic guards that could definitely are going to be in the mix. But I see flaws with the other 3. I see VCU has the best home court edge in the league. I think Ryan Odom might be the best coach right now, and they've got the most continuity, the most returning. I like that profile, and I think if they're going to give you a good number on VCU, it's worth it in the A10.
Impressive stuff, Mr. Trigger. Impressive stuff. Fridays will be my favorite day moving forward here. I can talk college basketball for hours and hours. It's nice to get that, 2 weeks before you'll be on your first road trip somewhere on November 1st. We always close out the show this way, Adam. Everyone knows on X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it, they can follow you at Adam Trigger WT. But as we do with Andrew, we do with you here. Tell everyone what you have to offer at Wager Talk for this weekend, maybe a package for college basketball, whatever you got, tell the world.
Yeah, so all of my picks you can always find at Wager Talk, all of my content on the Wager Talk platform. I have the same handle that I've started this TikTok channel where I'm going to do a lot more, interactive stuff. If you want me to handicap a game for you, hit me up on TikTok. I'll make a little video of it. I'm going to do that all college basketball season, as well with hopefully some live content on there. I do have a college football play I love for Saturday. I'll give you the one I've got up there for tonight. I made a play on Florida State +3. I'm a little annoyed with myself for missing the 3.5. I thought it might come back and it didn't, but I decided to lock in +3. Very quick handicap there. I'm willing to play against quote unquote 5-1 Duke, very weak non-conference schedule. They're 1 ACC wins over the worst team in the league one of the worst teams in the league, in my opinion, in North Carolina. And they lost to Georgia Tech by 10. I think Florida State would be 5-1 against Duke's schedule at this point. And I listened to some Florida State media talk this week just to try to take the temperature of the program. It feels like they're approaching this game pretty it's serious. It's not. I didn't hear anything about playing guys to get playing time. It doesn't feel like they're giving up on the season just yet. I know they don't want to be 1-6, so you're going to give me a field goal with Florida State. They've never lost to Duke, Jeff. Did you know that? 21-0 all time against the Duke Blue Devils. I think it's 22-0 after tonight, and if not, we've got the 3 points to hopefully get us home there. So that's the only thing I've played so far for Friday, Florida State, and I've got a play I really like up for Saturday at Wager Talk.
Go follow Adam at Adam Trigger WT on X, and of course head on over to Wager Talk and take a look at his packages and his selection for tomorrow as well. Adam, thank you so much. Awesome to catch up with you. We'll catch you back here same time next Friday. How's that sound?
Sounds great. Looking forward to it, Jeff. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you. Elijah, one quick break and we'll wrap it up.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop. Come on, baby, higher. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop.
What a way to start the day. OMG. I've told you guys since September 1st, I have November 1st circled. It's the sports equinox where all the sports will be playing. Of course, we'll be 3/4 of the way through college football. NFL will be at least at the halfway point further on there. NHL has already started. Next week, the NBA starts, and on November 1st, college basketball starts. And to have Adam come on every Friday at 11:30 to talk and break down, again, those smaller markets, we look for edges here in our lanes, like a lot of the other experts in our lanes. And it's the less traveled. Who the hell wants to talk about Iona and Fordham? I know a lot of people though. Dayton, VCU, Harvard versus Yale. And my point is, you can find so much value there if you do the homework. Everyone wants to talk about, again, Kansas versus Texas or whatever the big game of the week is there. So make sure you set your calendars here for every Friday at 11 a.m. as we start with the NCAA Insiders, Matt Grissom, Quentin Mills, talking college football, and they will slowly trickle into college basketball. And of course, they're the big dogs when it comes to college baseball. And then around 11:30, 11:35, Adam Trigger at Adam Trigger WT to talk college basketball. 3:30 p.m. I am at McGinnis Picks on YouTube and Wager Talk. We'll be talking some NHL and some weekend sports there. And around 4:30, quarter to 5, myself and Riley Magnuson will be back for the closing bell. Talk about the instant classic Guardians, 1 out away from going down 0-3. Mr. Big Christmas, I think the ball just landed, ties it. And then Mr. Fry, who propelled them against the Tigers with a grand slam, two-run homer for the walk-off there. Dodgers up 3-0. I'm sorry, 3-1 now. Do the Mets at least get it back to LA, or are they thinking golf? 2 games tonight. We'll talk about them as well. Of course, couldn't have done it without Mr. Elijah Cox. Amazing, amazing work. Keep up the great, great work there. Shout out to Mr. Saylor, everyone else watching and listening. And if you haven't followed us, jump on over to YouTube, East Coast Sports Investors. Subscribe. It's free. Jump on back to Twitter. Follow us at EC Sports Invest. Any questions, comments, concerns, send us an email to eastcoastsportsinvestors@gmail.com. Everyone, have a blessed afternoon, and we'll be back here soon. Stay tuned.